Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you today? Ready for some new drama? Let's go to the first one, about OP's boyfriend's ex-wife, who lives in OP's house and refuses to move out. Listen to the story, guys, to find out why, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 36 female, and my boyfriend, 42 male, have been together for 7 years. We have both been married and divorced before, and like to be financially independent of each other, and keep things pretty separate. What's mine is mine, and what's his is his. I am CF, have worked my way up in my field, and am comfortable. My boyfriend doesn't earn what I do. He pays a lot of child support too, and contributes, as he should, to all of his 5 kids' after-school activities. So our deal between us is, I pay all of our household bills, loans, food, and he looks after his kids and contributes what he can to our household. 5 years ago, I bought a home for us, and I even went as far as buying a home that would suit his kids, so they would feel comfortable when they came and stayed with us. This caused a lot of drama. His ex felt that I was trying to buy the children, and in her words, she only got the house to rub in how much better she thinks she is. I have always kept my distance from his ex. It was a messy divorce for them, which she blamed on me, even though I didn't meet my partner until they'd been separated for nearly a year. She has a history of DV to him, and my presence makes it worse. 18 months ago, I got a great job opportunity, which would mean we would need to relocate 12 hours away from our current home. After discussions between boyfriend and I, and my boyfriend and his ex, we agreed that we would make the move from my job and would rent my house to his ex for an incredible discounted rate, with the agreement that this would be for 2 years. Recently, my work circumstances have changed, and we've relocated back to our hometown again. My boyfriend and I have found a small rental in the meantime, but since coming home, his ex has become more aggressive, particularly with me. She has told my partner the children have always hated me, and were only nice because of him, but don't ever want to see me again. She's accused me of trying to buy the kids' love, making her look like a bad mother, and for basically being the root of all evil. Which is whatever to me. I do love the kids in my own way, but would hate to make them choose or feel uncomfortable by being around me. So we're making sure that my boyfriend spends as much time as possible with kids and attends any sports or school events without me, and when I go away from work, they come to our house. I've suggested therapy or counseling, but the ex won't hear of it, making it sound like I'm calling her a bad mother for suggesting it. The 2 years is ending, and I want my house back. Basically, the ex is saying if I'm rich enough to pay for a rental and pay a mortgage now, I should let her and the kids stay in the house, and since the kids now hate me, it would be a waste of space for just my boyfriend and I. And this situation is also leading to kids telling my partner that they hate me even more for kicking them and their mother out of their home. My boyfriend is very torn. He just wants his kids safe and happy. It looks like OP is being taken advantage of. It's super weird that OP is carrying the financial burden of the life of a man and his 5 children. OP is being extremely generous here, and I'm really worried about what OP's boyfriend's true motives even are. There are just so many red flags here. X is using her own kids to manipulate the situation to get her housing she's not willing to pay for. She's a grown woman who chose to have those children, and OP shouldn't be responsible for them. It's OP's house, and she needs it, so it's time for them to move out. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. GumGum66 says, "Not the a-hole. It's your house. Don't let her manipulate you just because you can afford it and she can't." Gives me the vibes of this lady I read in a magazine years ago. She won £1.4 million on the lottery, and people stole her car that she lent them because you can just buy a new one. Just because you can afford a different house doesn't mean you owe this woman your house. Give her a month's notice, and you're going to have to accept it if the kids are angry. You can't control how they feel, and if they're going to be mad at you and not like you anyway, then that's up to them. They need to learn that they can't just walk over people and get what they want, which is what their mother is clearly teaching them. Timely Proposal 1821 says, "Not the a-hole. So you pay most of your household bills so your boyfriend can pay child support comfortably. You let the ex rent your house at a big discount. You don't go to events to keep the peace between your boyfriend and his kids, ex. Put your foot down now. You're bending over backwards to please them, only for the ex to continue treating you like dirt. It's not healthy for you to let the ex walk all over you, and it's a terrible example for the kids. Your boyfriend doesn't get a say. It's your house. Kick the ex out." Prangolina says, "Not the a-hole. They should decide. Either they hate you, and then they should hate your money as well and move out, or pull their crap together. I cannot imagine a person so delusional that they can think, I hate you, but you should of course provide for me. My ex-wife blindsided me with news that she was moving 3 hours away with her fiancé because he got a better paying job. And the kids, who are 11 and 14, wanted to move too. I have week-on, week-off custody. There was no way I was giving up that for just every other weekend visitation. I then found out that her fiancé had already sold his home here and had bought another one there. I immediately went to court to get an emergency order preventing the move. My ex begged me to let her go, but I refused. In the end, she was prevented from taking the kids more than 50 kilometers from where I live. Unfortunately, the fiancé broke up with my ex because of this, and she has had to move in with her mother while she looks for an apartment because she can't afford a big house anymore. I would like to say that I won, but I didn't. My kids are now extremely angry with me for causing their mother to lose her fiancé. They hate living cooped up in their grandmother's home, and are now taking out all their anger in our household. They've said some heartbreaking stuff to me and my wife. My ex, who I used to co-parent amazingly with, now does everything she can to create turmoil in my household. She has even verbally told me that she's going to use our kids to break up my marriage as revenge. And my kids have done stuff that make me believe she's going through with her threats. My wife is saying she's at her limit. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted, though? I just didn't want to lose my kids. They should not have made any permanent steps towards the move without knowing it was okay with OP. It is not at all okay for her to say she is going to use kids to break up OP's marriage. OP was obviously within his rights to do what he did, but it is negatively impacting OP's kids. Also, I find it strange that OP's ex's fiancé dumped her so quickly. What kind of love is that then? And now let's hear the community's opinion. Impossible to pronounce says, this is probably going to be unpopular, but everyone sucks here. The kids are old enough to decide where they want to be. At any point during this, did you actually talk to them to see what they wanted? It doesn't sound like either of you are actually trying to put the kids first. Rit Posset Rit says, this is awful, but you did not create this situation. She did, not the a-hole, and the courts agree with you. She had to know this would be a problem, which is why she didn't tell you until it was too late for her to make other reasonable plans. If her fiancé actually broke up with her over this, they didn't have a very strong relationship to begin with. Why were the kids so interested in moving? It's odd for kids that age to want to leave their friends. I Wave at Seal says, wait, out of the blue your ex wants to move. Fiancé has a new job and already bought a new home. And your kids wanted to move with her. I think your kids were promised something that they really wanted, so they would not contest the move. And if your kids wouldn't contest, then you wouldn't also. Plan doesn't work out. Fiancé dumps ex, kids are upset, ex makes your life miserable. So, not the a-hole. I have a son, 11, and a daughter, 13, from a previous relationship, and my wife has a 7-year-old son with her ex-husband. I have custody of my children 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. My wife has primary custody of her son, and he has visitation with his dad every other Friday afternoon to Monday morning. His dad also takes him for 6, mostly separate, weeks throughout the year. My stepson always comes back from his dad's with fun stories and never fails to have a good time. This past weekend, they went to a monster truck rally. The weekend before it was survival camping, and before that an amusement park. I'm glad he gets to go and have a good time, but it's becoming increasingly frustrating for my wife and me. We don't have the time to make our weekends with him just as exciting, and during the week, we have to do the everyday things that go into raising a child. I know my son is jealous of his stepbrother always coming back home and talking about all the fun things he did with his dad. We do other fun things, but my son always seems to want to do the things his stepbrother gets into. Part of the issue is also just the lifestyle differences. My daughter is in competitive dance, and my son competitive soccer, so this takes up a lot of our time in the evenings and weekends. Last night I had to pick my stepson up from his dad's house because his dad had to leave home early the next morning for a work trip. We ended up chatting for a bit, and I mentioned to him about it being hard on my son when stepson comes back with all these fun things to tell him about his weekend. He sarcastically apologized and asked what he was supposed to do about it. I told him it wouldn't be too hard for him to not always jam-pack his weekends with all these fun activities, and suggested that stepson could be getting more involved in sports instead. At that point, stepson was ready to go, and our conversation mostly ended there. I ended up telling my wife what I had said, thinking she would agree, but she thinks I was an a-hole. I thought she agreed about it being frustrating having to compete with Disney Dad, but although she said she did, she also would still rather her son think she's boring and still get to go on adventures with his dad. We started arguing, and she accused me of making too many excuses about why I don't take my kids to do more activities, outings. She brought up this past weekend, where she took my kids bowling and out for dinner and shopping while I stayed at home. I had to wake up insanely early that same morning to take my son to a soccer game. She also is now worried her ex is going to think she put me up to saying what I did, and is thinking about texting him to apologize, which would be embarrassing for me. Am I the a-hole here? I just want my stepson to have a calmer routine, and am trying to look out for my own son's feelings. Well, I think OP's stepson's dad was very polite with OP, because I would have kicked him out if I was him. OP's stepson's father has no obligation to cater towards the feelings of OP's biological children. He is allowed to take his son on fun outings. OP needs to stay in his lane. Nestor 1953 says, "You actually asked your wife's ex to do less fun things with your stepson because you don't want to have to expend the effort to do cool things with your own kids? And you're the guy who couldn't be bothered to go bowling and have fun with your kids last weekend because you had to get up early the next day? Wow. And way to support and nurture your stepson, by the way. Let's make his relationship with his dad less enjoyable. You're the a-hole. The way to fix this is for you to do more, not for your stepson's dad to do less." Maybe a walrus says, "You're the a-hole. Instead of parenting your own kids, you decided to make it your wife's ex's problem so you don't have to deal with it. Life is not fair. Your kids made the choice to do competitive sports. That comes with responsibilities. It's your time to step up and teach them that they can't have it all." Faster77 says, "Let's get this straight. You want to reduce the fun your stepson has so you don't look as bad. You want to objectively make your stepson's life worse so you don't look bad. Gee, I wonder who's the a-hole here. It's you. You're the a-hole." My neighbors are this really lovely couple, Charlie and Emily. They have 7 kids. The oldest is 17 and the youngest is 4. Only 3 of them are under 10 years old, with the rest being pre-teens, teenagers. The older kids are from Charlie and Emily's previous relationships. The younger are their shared biological kids. Big family, but Charlie is a mostly stay-at-home dad, trying to keep it vague, but he's always only worked a couple of days a month and has a lot of passive income. Emily makes a boatload of money, and their house has 8 bedrooms. Between their financial backing and Charlie staying at home, the kids have everything they need, and they're a happy, loving family with no issues. I know this because I take care of 4 kids. My kids, 4 male and 5 female, and my nephews, ages 4 and 6. All of our kids go to the same school. The 4-year-olds are all in the same class, and my 6-year-old nephew and their 6-year-old son are in different classes, but still good friends. There's also been times when they've watched my kids for me, and times when I've watched theirs. My boyfriend has said to me previously that 7 kids is way too much. I've responded mainly with comments along the lines of, "Good thing I only have 2, and their choices aren't my business," or something like that. But I've also reassured him about their financial situation, Charlie's ability to stay at home, and the sheer size of their house. However, the other day I was talking to Emily while the kids played. My boyfriend was with us. Emily said she felt a little nauseous lately with a bit of a headache, and she said she was going to the GP to make sure it was nothing serious. My boyfriend then says, "Let's hope you're not pregnant again. 7 is already excessive." While Emily has made jokes along these lines, this was very clearly not meant as a joke. He sort of walked off after he said it, leaving me to apologize profusely to Emily on his behalf. It was absolutely mortifying, as she was obviously offended, which anyone would be if a near stranger told them they had an excessive amount of children. Then today he wanted to come over. I've told him he can't come over unless he apologizes to Emily and to Charlie, who Emily tells everything to. He said he will not, under any circumstances, apologize. He says he was just joking, and it's not like what he said was actually incorrect, because 7 kids is an absurd number. I've said that it's not for him to decide, and he's insulted my friends, and I don't want him coming over if there's a chance he'll run into Emily and Charlie, and they'll be mad at him still. He said I'm being unreasonable, controlling, and belittling, infantilizing him, and generally making him feel like a child for forcing him to apologize for something he believes to be true. Am I the a-hole? Sammy Loops 1 says, "Not the a-hole. While he may not want 7 kids, it's rude of him to judge others for it to their face, especially when they're properly taken care of. And a joke is something that both people find funny, which is not the case here. Just because someone says it's a joke, that doesn't make it one. Your boyfriend sounds like kind of a jerk who has no problem insulting your friends. Carbonatite says, unpopular opinion. I'm an environmental climate scientist, and having that many kids is literally the worst thing the average person can do with respect to environmental and climate impact. It's downright irresponsible in my opinion. And I have a sneaking suspicion that in a family that big, the older kids are being forced to be unpaid babysitters. That said, it's her body, her family, her choice. Even if I personally disapprove, I would never say something like that to someone. I mean, that's just awful. Absolutely not the a-hole. Motorhead Till I Die says, not the a-hole. At what point exactly does the number of kids your neighbor has affect your boyfriend? Because it seems like it doesn't, in which case he should keep his opinions to himself. If he's going to be a child about it, maybe it's time to reassess what kind of partner you want to be with.